Hey guys, what's up? It's iFlynn here, and welcome to episode 12 of my Warframe The Ultimate Beginner's Guide 2.0. In today's video, we're going to be talking about everything that we need to do on Sedna and a few other things that we probably haven't talked about in this series so far. Before we jump into the meat and potatoes of the video though, I would quickly mention that the Orokin Derelict keys have been removed from the game, and the Orokin Derelict is just now an area that is on the star chart, so it's connected to Mars. So all this basically means is that you no longer have to craft the Orokin Derelict keys like Orokin Derelict Exterminate or Orokin Derelict Capture, stuff like that, to access these derelict missions. So you can start farming for Necros and your corrupted mods a lot sooner, which is great, and it also saves you a lot of credits in the long run as well, because you don't have to craft these keys every single time that you want to play the mission. And on top of that, you're going to be able to matchmake with players a lot easier, because again, it doesn't require a key, right? So that's awesome as well. So I thought this change was going to be coming along with the Heart of Deimos update on the 25th of August. I'm recording this video on the 13th of August, and that's probably whenever this is going to go live as well. So my bad for expecting this change to be out later, but it's not actually a bad change. It's just going to confuse people who watched the earlier episodes of this guide, so I wanted to mention it here just to clear the air, right? So but with that out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to Sedna. So starting at Naga, you want to go ahead and make your way up to Hydron. Now Hydron is going to be your go-to leveling mission for pretty much the rest of your life on Warframe. There is another game mode called Elite Sanctuary Onslaught, but I find Hydron to be a lot more consistent. You can get a weapon from level 0 to level 30 within 10 waves on Hydron, implying it's the only weapon that you have equipped. For getting Warframes from 0 to 30, it's going to take about 25 to 30 waves, depending on how efficiently you're killing enemies with your Warframe's abilities. So a Warframe like Saryn or Mesa might get to level 30 faster compared to like a Vault or something like that, right? Because Vault's abilities just aren't as good at killing mobs of enemies as like Mesa and Saryn's are, if that makes sense. So yep, Hydron is great. You can matchmake with 3 other players quite easily here. So you want to set it to public. You don't want to be soloing this. You want to have the 3 extra players in there with you. And I would recommend doing 10 waves every single time you jump into it. You are going to come across people who leave at wave 5. If 2 of your squad members leave at wave 5, then you also should extract. But then if, if you have, 2 squad members with you, then you should be good to go. If it's 3 player, it's good. 2 player, probably bad. And then 4 player is ideal. So, yep, that's that. But then we have to go along this path all the way up to Naki. And we're going to get to this new mission type called Arena Missions. And this is why we picked up Mesa. Mesa is going to make these arena missions a lot easier. So basically, you're going to be playing against new enemies called Executioners, and you have to kill 25 of these Executioners to complete the mission, and you're not allowed to die too much. You can die, but you shouldn't be dying too much. Mesa's third ability, Shatter Shield, is going to give you 95% damage reduction, implying you have enough power strength thrown on, and I believe all you need to hit the power strength cap is a maxed out Intensify and a maxed out Power Drift. If you don't have that, don't worry, just throw on as much power strength as you can till you hit 145% power strength. Then you should be good to go. That way you'll have your 95% damage reduction. But you don't necessarily need the full 95 for this. It isn't too difficult, but jump in here with your Hex Shotgun with Point Blank, Hell's Chamber, Elemental mods, and if you've got it, Scattered Justice. Scattered Justice will make this extremely easy. I was able to do it without it, so that's just a testament to how much easier the game has become since the armor changes. But basically, you've got to kill 25 Executioners, and they're going to be like random enemies that you've never seen before. Some of them are going to be tankier than others. Sometimes you're going to get like very easy enemies. I'm sorry for a little like hiccup there. You're going to get really easy enemies, or you're going to get pretty tough enemies. Yam is what I would do to get more endo and also get these judgment points that you can see at the bottom, right? So to actually fight this boss, Kela De Thaym, we need to have 25 judgment points, and you can see that I've got 13. So what I have to do is I need to do these arena missions to get these judgment points. So I can do this one Naki and I'll get some judgment points. Then I can go to Yam and I'll get even more judgment points, right? So you do one run Naki and one run of Yam, and then you have enough to kill the boss on here on Marrow. So the boss Kela De Thaym, she drops the parts for the Warframe known as Saryn. She's really easy to take down, especially if you've got Mesa. I'm going to have a little bit of gameplay on screen right now. You walk into this room. There's going to be a button that is lit up on the ground. You stand on this button. There's going to be like a turning little clock. You have to shoot your Ignis at it. This is why the Ignis is so important. You shoot your Ignis at it and it immediately completes. Then you're gonna be on this rising platform. You're gonna be in the boss room. You want to jump onto another platform in one of the corners of the arena. Press your fourth ability, hold down left click while aiming at Kela De Thaym, and then she's gonna go into an immunity phase once you've dealt enough damage. There's gonna be missiles that shoot around the arena, jump around until that phase passes. Then in the middle of the arena again, there's gonna be 4 buttons on the ground. Stand on the button, and then adjacent to the button that you're standing on, there's going to be another like little clock that is turning. Shoot your Ignis at it until you see 4 ticks of damage, then move on to the other buttons that are lit up on the ground. Now, don't take too long to do this. You've got to do it 4 times, and you have to do it within the space of, I believe, 15 seconds, or else there's going to be another missile strike that comes down, right? So then you're going to have to wait out the missile strike before you can come back into the middle, stand on the button, and then shoot the little clock that is spinning again. And you've got to do this like immunity stage thing 3 times, and then you can kill Kela De Thaym. It's just rinse and repeat. Keep on doing that until you kill Kela, and then you've got to farm out those judgment points again, so you can you know, kill Kela again to farm out the parts for Saryn. So I've jumped onto my main account to basically show you guys how Saryn works, because I think just showing you guys the abilities in action is better than trying to explain how they work in the armory using the little UI elements that they have on the left hand side. I'm also going to be showing you guys builds that I would be shooting for at this point in the game on Sedna to then jump into other content. So this loadout that I'm going to be showing you guys is mainly revolving around Saryn, the Hek shotgun, and the Broken War. I haven't got a secondary setup for you guys because honestly it doesn't really matter all that much. Warframe is kind of in a state where melee is the meta because it is just so much stronger compared to, you know, your rifles, your shotguns, your snipers and stuff like that. So you're going to be dealing most of your damage with your weapons in the melee category, and then of course using abilities to sort of accelerate that, right? So Saryn is all about spreading the disease, buffing yourself up, and then dealing sort of like AoE nuke damage. So she's got a damage over time on her first ability, she's got a buff on her third ability, and then a nuke on her fourth ability, right? You don't really have to worry about the second ability all that much. You really only worry about the second ability whenever you've got an augment mod, and an augment mod is a mod that you can pick up from the syndicates, which will sort of change the effect off an ability or add an effect to it. So there is an augment mod for the second ability where you can regen health from it, but all it really does at base is speed you up and also strip away status effects. So you can use it, you know, if you've got like a slash proc or toxin proc on you and you want to get rid of it. But other than that, it's not really used all that often. It's useful, but it's not something that you should be basing your build around, I guess. I mean, you can if you wanted to, don't get me wrong, it's your playthrough, but what I'm going to be showing you guys today is like a damage over time nuke build that I'll be aiming for as a newer player. So we've got vitality on here for our health. This is going to help you survive in all of your missions. Then we have transient fortitude, intensify, and power drift for our power strength. Now what that's going to do, that's going to increase the damage from our spores, which is our first ability, the damage over time. It's going to increase the damage buff on the third ability, toxic lash, which is toxin damage, and it's going to increase the damage from our fourth ability, our nuke ability, miasma, which is viral damage, right? So corrosive is a really good element for the first Toxin is a really good element for the third, then Viral is a really good element for the fourth. So we've got like 3 really strong elemental types on this Warframe from the get-go, and we're just buffing up the effects with Power Drift, Intensify, and Transient Fortitude. These 3 mods are mods that you should have access to. Transient Fortitude is from the Orcan Derelict, right? So that little vault that you had to open with the dragon keys, so the Bleeding Key, Decaying Key, Hobbled, Extinguished, that there type of thing. Intensify, this is a mod that you will hopefully have come across just playing through. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. You should have a broken version of it. You can go ahead and throw that there on. And then Power Drift, this is a mod that I asked you guys to farm up from those trials on Lua, right? So that little room where you have to sort of sacrifice your energy to these blue balls, and it opens a staircase in the middle. That's where you get this here from. Constitution and Continuity, these are power duration mods, so that's going to basically stop your first ability from decaying. So whenever your first ability isn't affecting enemies, the damage of the first ability is going to go down. As the first ability is active on enemies, the damage for it scales up. So the longer it's active on enemies, the more damage you're dealing. But then once it comes off the enemies, then it's going to go down and down and down and down and down. Having more duration on basically counteracts that and makes it so it decays much slower, so you can keep more damage even whenever your spores aren't up. It's also going to increase the duration of your third ability as well, which is just good because this is going to like increase your damage substantially, especially if you're using Saryn to level underwhelming weapons, right? So I used Saryn to level up a whip, which dealt, not that much damage, and I couldn't fit on a lot of elemental mods, but because I could throw on Toxic Lash, the third ability, it dealt a little bit more damage, and I was able to level it up a little bit more efficiently, right? So that there was cool as well. Stretch and overextend it for power range. This is very, very, very important for Saryn because you want to be able to spread your spores as efficiently as possible. So whenever you kill the enemy with the spores on, basically enemies within the power range or the range of those spores is going to then be affected by the spores, right? And that's going to increase your damage. More enemies affected, more damage. And then it also affects the range of Miasma as well, which is your nuke, which is very good to use in conjunction with your spores, right? So that is basically it. Your aura mod, I would recommend for newer players, Energy Siphon. We're going to be talking about a thing later on in this video, which makes it so you don't have to use Energy Siphon. But, if you're not that far ahead, then use Energy Siphon. I'm using Corrosive Projection on here because it reduces the enemy's armor. There's a myth going on that having Corrosive Projection on makes Saryn not as good, which is just mind-boggling to me, because it only reduces the enemy's armor by 18%, and it means that your spores are dealing more damage, right? You're just dealing more damage with Saryn because their armor is reduced with or by 18%, right? If the armor was completely stripped, I would understand the argument, but you can't completely strip away the enemy's armor with Corrosive Projection anymore, so that argument of Corrosive Projection being bad on Saryn doesn't really hold weight unless you're talking in terms of like, the enemies are dying quicker, therefore your spores aren't ramping up in damage. The longer the mission goes on, the tankier the enemies are going to get, and then, your spores are going to ramp up in damage anyway, right? So, just having Corrosive Projection on here just allows you to get to that later stage a little bit faster and more efficiently. So that's my take on it, at least anyway. So that is that. The Hek build that I'm running right now: Point Blank for damage, Hell's Chamber for multi-shot, which is just basically more damage, Scattered Justice for multi-shot, again, basically more damage, Charged Shell and Contagious Spread for our corrosive, then Incendiary Coat for our heat. So that's corrosive and heat damage. This is gonna one-shot basically everything on Sedna. It's really good. Shoot for this. Of course, to get these builds that I'm showing you guys, you are gonna have to forma. And what I want to talk about in terms of forming, a lot of you guys mentioned on the previous video where I recommended people go get Mesa. You were like, why don't you recommend them to go and get Mesa Prime? Because it's a lot easier and you've got the extra polarity and the bonus stats and stuff like that. The difference between a regular frame and a prime frame is that prime frames come with extra polarities at base, and they also have minor stat buffs. So it might have like 25 more energy or something along those lines. The reason that I want you guys to go and get the base versions of the frame first is that it allows you to experiment to sort of find out what type of build that you want to go for, which abilities you value, right? So for example, on Mesa, her second ability actually like acts as a CC as well as a buff. So if you value that CC aspect of Mesa, then you might want to, you know, forma your Mesa Prime to then accommodate more range mods over like more power strength mods. It's just kind of up to the player at that point. There is no one strict way of modding Warframes. Of course, like I can make recommendations to you, but it's at the end of the day, it's sort of down to you. There are a few rules to follow. So for example, with Mesa, to get 95% damage reduction on her third ability, you need to have, I believe it's 145% power strength. That's off the top of my head. To get that, you need to have 145% power strength. So that's one rule. But then like after you've met that requirement, you know, the rest of the modding spaces, it's entirely down to you what you do with them. You could also make the argument that you throw on more power strength for the regulators to make them more powerful, increase the multiplier. But the majority of the damage that are coming from regulators actually comes from the mods that you have equipped to them, right? And I'm going to be demonstrating that in here as well. Yeah, Point Blank, Hell's Chamber, Scattered Justice. This is going to give you basically more damage. Charged Shell, Contagious Spread, and Syndicate. This is giving you your Corrosive and Fire. So that's 75% versus your Heavy Gunners, and an additional 25% bonus from the Corrosive and the Fire, which is great. So that's 75% off the Corrosive damage stat. So 75% off 256.5, and then 25% off 128.3. Then add that on top, and then add these together, and that would be your total damage output versus, you know, whatever particular enemy it is. And then for the Broken War, what I'm running here is Pressure Point for damage, Fever Strike, Shock and Touch, Molten Impact for Corrosive and Fire again, Fury for attack speed, Organ Shatter for critical damage, and True Steel for critical chance. You don't necessarily have to be running these crit mods here. You can take those off. And again, you might have to forma to fit all these mods that I'm showing on. So, you know, it's up to you whether or not you want to forma this early into the game. I would definitely recommend forming the Hek, because the Hek is just a great weapon. But if you want to hold off forming Saryn or Mesa until you get the Prime versions, that's okay. Just know that you're gonna be sacrificing a few stats here and there. The Broken War, again, that's a weapon that I definitely recommend forming because it's just a good weapon, and there's no like Prime version of it, right? There's only Prime versions of 10 weapons, and I believe this one is categorized as a sentient weapon, so it's probably never going to get a Prime version for it, right? If you're worried about it coming out in the future. But with all that being said, let's jump in and demonstrate Saryn's abilities. So if you go up to this little console here, I'm going to spawn in 20 Corrupted Heavy Gunners. They are going to go to, you know what, let's just go ahead and put them on a level 170 just to show you guys how effective this build is that I'm going to be showing you, right? So they're going to be paused. There used to be like a stealth bonus for having these enemies paused. That's no longer a thing. So you're just seeing the raw damage that you would be dealing, just like if the enemies were alerted and you're normally shooting them, right? So with Saryn, first start off by casting your free, then cast your one on an enemy, kill that enemy, right? So that enemy's dead, and you see that the spores have now infected the other 19 enemies. Down in the bottom right hand corner, you can see the damage scaling up and up and up and up and up. Now, if you were to cast your spores again, it would reduce the amount of damage or the damage over time that you're dealing, but then it would keep on ramping up again. So, you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing if you want to recast to sort of like spread your spores across the map. That's totally okay. Just know that it's going to take a percentage off your damage over time and then reduce it, you know? So that's that. And then you can use your fourth ability, and then that is going to stun all the enemies, deal damage over time to them, and they're all going to die pretty soon, hopefully. Well, that guy that died there, he was damaged because we were spamming the Broken War on him. But yeah, you can see that you deal a decent amount of damage. These are level 170 enemies. They've got a lot of effective health. So it's not like the build that I'm showing you guys is bad or anything like that. You know, like you can definitely get better whenever you have Prime mods and stuff. But that's just a really good beginner build for Saryn. And if you want to see the amount of shots to kill with the Hek that I'm using right here, so we'll aim for headshots because there's a headshot multiplier in this game. That's 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots, 4 shots, don't know if that one's a headshot, 5 shots, 6 shots, 7 shots, 8 shots. So 8 shots to kill a level 170 enemy. You can just imagine, you know, how much less shots you would need to kill like a level 32 enemy, I think they are in Sedna. So it's pretty strong, right? So keep in mind that as you're shooting the enemy and you're like proccing corrosive and heat and stuff like that, their armor is being reduced, so you might not deal a lot of damage in your first shot, but then in your second shot, because the heat damage or the corrosive, the status effects are applied, then you're going to deal more damage with the follow-up shots, you know. So that's that. And I guess I can show you guys the broken ward just on its own without the buff. See, it got knocked down. It's not that great, but trust me, whenever we get a few more mods later on, the broken war is going to be absolutely insane. Well, every single melee weapon is probably going to be absolutely insane. So that is Saryn, that is the Hek, and that is the broken war. Now I want to move on to Mesa, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and put together a quick Mesa build real fast. So you guys might have caught a glance at my fully decked out Mesa build, but for you guys, I'll be running Energy Siphon. We go with Continuity, right? Because we need that duration. We'd also be going with Intensify, Power Drift, which is these little dashes here. I'm going to put that up there just because this is an Exilus mod slot. You need to have an Exilus adapter to unlock this. You guys aren't going to have access to that right now, so I'd recommend putting it like in one of these slots here. It doesn't really matter which one you put it into. I've got a lot of polarities on here. Don't copy my polarities exactly. This is just, I do a lot of experimenting and stuff like that, and sometimes I format just to show people examples. So don't copy mine exactly. Just, you know, figure out by yourself which ones you need to throw on. So like Narrow Minded is a pretty expensive mod that might mean that you need a depolarity, you know, to half the cost of this 16 capacity mod, right? So Narrow Minded, that's a definite because it's increasing the duration, right? So Intensify, Continuity, Power Drift, Narrow Minded. Let's hover over our Shatter Shield. We've got the 95% damage reduction. If we were to remove our Power Drift, goes down. Actually, it doesn't go down. So you just need Intensify. So you just need Intensify to get the 95% damage reduction. I completely forgot. So energy per second on our Peacemaker, we want to get that there down as well. We get that down by using our power duration mods and power efficiency mods. So if I go to config B and I take all this stuff off, just to prove to you guys that power duration does indeed affect that stat. So right now it is at 15 energy per second. If we were to throw on Continuity, it goes down to 11.5, right? If you were to throw on Streamline, where are we at? Streamline's all the way over here. It goes down to 10.5, right? So you want to be using duration and efficiency. So what I would do is I would do maxed out Streamline, I believe it is. Let me take a look. So it's, yeah, I just use a maxed out Streamline on my completed build. Maxed out Streamline and maxed out Continuity. You probably could get away with throwing on a Fleeting, but the thing is the Fleeting also reduces your duration, right? And you want to have on as much duration as possible for your Shatter Shield, because your Shatter Shield is very, very, very strong. So what I would do is I would throw on Constitution on there, and that's going to reduce the energy per second as well. And then it's pretty much up to you what you want to throw on. I would throw on Vitality, and then that would be sort of the minimum that I would go for. You could throw on like range mods to help out with the what's it called, the CC on Shooting Gallery if you want. It's totally down to you whether or not you think that's worth it, because keep in mind you do have 95% damage reduction, you know, so you're pretty tanky anyway, and versus the types of enemies that you're going to be going up against, 95% damage reduction is going to be more than enough. So you don't necessarily need to add at CC. So you could throw on more power strength for more damage, more duration. If you've got the mods, you have these auger mods which you get from Plains of Eidolon bounties. If you happen to be doing those and you have a few of these, you can throw them on. So Auger Message, for example, you know, that will increase the duration of my Shatter Shield up to 70 seconds. So it's kind of one of those abilities where you can just kind of just throw it on and then forget about it, right? Even though you don't need to have Power Drift on there, I would still run it anyway, because that's just going to buff up your Shooting Gallery and also increase the multiplier off your fourth ability as well, which, you know, it takes it to 2.18 from 1.95. So, you know, if it's worth it, it's totally down to you. And then we have the regulators here, which is Mesa's exalted pistols. This would be a completed build. Well, actually, this would be one that I would more go for. You know, I can just modify this a little bit, right? So what I would do is I would go for the regular pistol gambit, right? And then the regular target cracker, like so. You won't have bar of the fusion and lethal torrent, so you can run gunslinger, anemic agility, and then you could also run hornet strike, and then you could throw on another element on there, right? So my elemental orders are going to be a little bit messed up. Yeah, I won't be able to do that, but basically imagine you can swap around your polarities, right? So what you could do is you could throw on another element. You could throw on heat damage, right? So I could have convulsion, then pathogen rounds, then what's it called? Actually, this will work. Let me see. Heated charge, right? Like this. So this would be the build that you would go for on Mesa's regulators. Fire rate is really damn strong in Mesa's regulators. This isn't like a min-maxed build. So, you know, there are better builds out there, but this is like your beginner build. And again, let's just go ahead and spawn in more of these heavy gunners. If we go ahead and we, you know, use your 2 to buff up your damage, use your 3 to reflect damage, hold on your 4, and I ran out of energy really fast there because I had none. Here we go. Hold it down and the enemies will die very quickly, right? So what I would be conscious of is the amount of energy that your 2 and your 3 take. So I casted my 2 and my 3 and I had no energy to cast my 4. So it's kind of like you cast your 2 and your 3, then you have to run around, get some kills to pick up energy, and then you can hold down your 4 to do your dirty work, right? And kill whatever enemies it is. So these are level 170 enemies with those builds that I showed you. They're quite strong, you know, quite strong. But yep, that is that. Moving on, we've got a little bit more to talk about. I can also talk about Riven mods, right? So Riven mods are basically mods that have random rules, but they're for weapons. So check this here one out. This is a Riven mod for my Kronen. It gives me 224.4% critical chance. It gives me a 117.9% critical damage, but then negative 23.1% damage to infested. So that's a really insane Riven. Basically, what happens is you get these Riven mods. So I got one from the War of Inquest on my beginner account. And what's going to happen is it's going to have a challenge on it, right? So this one would be like kill 40 enemies with finishers without getting afflicted by status. That's kind of difficult. Get 3 headshots on a single aim glide. That one's pretty easy. So you basically just equip this to whatever weapon type it is. So I'd have to equip it to melee. Then you can complete the challenge however you want, right? So even though I've got that headshot one equipped to a melee weapon, I can still jump in with a primary weapon and get the headshots, and then it will complete the challenge. Once you've completed the challenge, you can back out of the mission immediately without completing it. And then it's going to reveal to you the Riven mod that you get. You know, so the one that I got on my beginner account was for the Simulor. It was like magazine capacity or something like that. And that one had 3 positive stats and 1 negative stat. That's the ideal, right? So you can see this one here. It's got 2 positive stats and 1 negative stat. Ideally, you want to be getting 3 positive stats and then 1 negative stat, because if you have a negative stat, it's going to make the positive stats much higher than if you weren't to have a negative stat. So let me see if I've got one that hasn't got a negative stat. Let's see. Does my Quorum have? So this one does actually have a negative stat, but this here is a really good rule here. So this is 171% damage, then 127.6 puncher, and then 106.4% multi-shot. So it's a pretty decent rule for the Quorum. Then we've got the negative damage to Corpus. So if I didn't have the negative damage to Corpus, the damage, puncture, and multi-shot stat, they would be much lower, right? So you want to have a harmless negative on. Harmless negatives are like minus damage to infested or maybe minus magazine capacity or total ammo, stuff like that, as long as the magazine capacity isn't like, you know, super tiny to begin with or super large. Because if it's super large, you're going to lose more ammo because it's going to take a percentage off the magazine capacity. But then if it's super low, you're going to lose less. But then, you know, it's up for the debate whether or not you want to lose less on a weapon that has very low ammo or magazine capacity to begin with. So Rivens are kind of an it depends, and there is a pretty hefty market for it. So if you sort of stay in the know and know what stats to look out for on certain weapons, you can get a really good Riven roll, because you can reroll these things with a resource called Kuva. We'll talk about how to farm that in a later video. I just wanted to talk about the Rivens now because people are definitely going to try to scam you out of your Rivens and stuff like that. But you can, like, these unveiled Rivens that I have right here, so this kick gun Riven mod, this easily goes for like 30 to 40 platinum. So if you get a Riven mod from the War of Vin or a sortie, which is something that we haven't covered yet, I'll cover that in the next episode. These Riven mods, they go for about 30 to 40 plat a time unveiled. So unveiled basically means without the challenge being completed. Then whenever you unveil it, like get the weapon on it, it's basically a gamble, right? You could get a really bad weapon and then decrease the value of the Riven and be worth nothing, or you could get a god tier Riven, like one for the Quorum, for example, and then somebody might really want that and pay a lot of platinum for it. It also depends on the stats that are on the Riven. So Riven prices are always subjective. There are websites out there like Riven Market and Warframe.market, which you can list your Rivens and sort of debate prices and stuff like that. It is all up for debate, and there's no like set price on any Rivens, you know, so it's all just personal opinion and stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, your homework is to get the Master Rank 10, right? So to get the Master Rank 10, I'm going to have on screen now me just scrolling through my list of everything that I've leveled up. You want to be getting your Saryn. You want to level her from 0 to 30. You want to get the Vault Warframe, because we're going to need him to do a thing called Eidolons. And you want to also equip that Xeneric Focus Lens onto your Saryn Warframe as well once she hits level 30. And that's going to allow you to farm up focus. That's basically going to be the main focus. Too much focus of the next video. So get yourself a Vault Warframe. You get him from the Tenno Lab off your clan's dojo, get all the blueprints, craft him, and then get him into your arsenal. He's going to be very important for doing a thing called Eidolon hunting. So yeah, that is basically it. Get the Master Rank 10. I'm going to have a little bit of footage on screen now of me doing the Master Rank 10 test. You can jump up to the right hand side and sort of like hang on this little platform. You're basically not allowed to fall off these platforms that are going to drop from beneath you. You can jump on the platform that the enemies are standing on the far right hand side. There's like a little glitch spot that you can get into and just kill all the enemies that way. It's a really easy way of doing it. Or if you want to do it the legit way, you can just, you know, bullet jump in the air and then aim glide whenever the thing's about to fall. Make sure to practice it first before jumping into it. I wouldn't jump into it blind because, you know, it's just not going to turn out well if you're not good at parkour. But anyway, guys, I think I've rambled on enough for this video. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Beginner Guide. I know it was a lot to take in, but hopefully all of that knowledge helps you with modding and getting through Sedna and, you know, just kickstarting your Warframe grindfest, because this is where it all begins. You know, like contrary to the popular belief, this is where it all starts. But thank you guys for watching. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe for more Warframe content, and I will see you guys in the next one.